To all America, I'm Jesha Miller. At this very moment, I'm about to present evidence for the impeachment of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. At this very moment, I'm empowered by the Constitution's checks and balances as the petitioner of the Constitution's checks and balances. As you see, petition for action, checks and balances. For those that don't know, Watergate, Floodgate, Deflategate, and all those other gates is the Constitution's checks and balances. That's what Watergate was. That's the magnitude and the power that I have. At this very moment, I have a status quo of $3.141 billion due to continued oppression by the President of the United States and the Judicial Branch of the government. That is for default of the 14th Amendment right to due process and imposed slavery in violation of the 13th and the 14th Amendments. So, we will begin. All America, this is worldwide. I'm about to present the evidence which Congress failed to do the day before. This is December the 10th, 2019, and I'm about to present the evidence for the impeachment of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. As I presented before, this is a petition for action using the Constitution's checks and balances. The magnitude of this is President Trump's supreme duty is to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution, which includes the Constitution's checks and balances, which upholds the integrity of the entire Constitution. President Trump's number one duty is to faithfully see to it that the federal laws are enforced, which he refuses to do as required under Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution, which is obstruction of justice, concealing an act against the law by the United States Supreme Court. Y'all heard it right. Because the Constitution checks and balances are used when an entire branch of government is corrupt. And I'm empowered to do this because the checks and balances is one branch is to check the other branch is to check the other branch, and the other branch is to check the other branch, which is the executive, the legislative, which is Congress, and the United States Supreme Court. In this case and instance, the corruption is by the United States Supreme Court, which, as I said, imposed slavery and continued oppression, as the motive was to deny $50 million for the illegal imprisonment of myself, Jesha Miller. That, due to continued oppression, that they refused to pay, due to continued oppression, is now $3.141 billion. To reach that, they had no intentions to pay at all. Now, once again, I say to you, the President violates the Constitution, Article 2, Section 3, where he is to faithfully see to it that the laws, federal laws, are executed, of which he refused to do. This petition for checks and balances, and as you will see, I'm going to get out real close for you now. This is to the President Donald Trump, Chief of Staff at that time John Kelly, FBI Director at at this time Christopher Wray, United States Attorney General at that time Jeff Sessions, who is now William Barr, Speaker of the House at that time Paul Ryan, and the Speaker of the House now is Nancy Pelosi, and the Secretary of the Treasury, Stephen Mnuchin, because the Secretary of the Treasury has to maintain my status quo and pay the money that is owed. And at this time, that is $185 million. Now, this here can also be seen on blog, the FBIRay.blogspot.com. Now, as the president refused to honor the Constitution checks and balances, he violates his oath of office. Now, President Trump cannot violate oath of office or he's impeached. This is it right here. But we will continue because there's more to this. Hey, all Americans, hey, you got to see this one right here because you ain't gonna believe it, but this is the real because I'm presenting the documents which certified mail, registered mail. You will see the court's documents. You will see the court's seal to know that all of this is authentic and real. Now, once the president has done this, there's a reason that he did that. He did that in obstruction of justice to cover up for the United States Supreme Court. Now, the United States Supreme Court, this is obstruction of justice. He then commits obstruction of justice, covering for the judicial branch, imposing slavery is the magnitude of this, and this is what upholds the integrity of the Constitution. They must be checked. What you think checks and balances mean? They get checked, and then we balance the scales of justice. As most black people know, this is history. The scales of justice have never, ever been balanced in America. So, as he does this, now you will see as received in the office of the United States Supreme Court. This is for my release from the imprisonment, and the petitioner is entitled to injunctive relief for my immediate release from illegal imprisonment with reparations from judgment of the proceedings in the Indiana Vanderburgh Circuit County Court that was so lawless that imprisonment pursuant to them is void, and therefore res judicata is inapplicable in a habeas corpus proceeding, and this is a habeas corpus proceeding of which the United States Supreme Court continued to impose slavery. That's obstruction of justice on the part of the President of the United States to conceal this in the checks and balances. The checks and balances of the magnitude of what the checks and balances are, mandatory by law. There it is. In these two documents that you have seen, as you see, received by the United States Supreme Court. This is obstruction of justice to prevent the Constitution checks and balances, which is a fundamental part of the Constitution. In doing this, I will show you my empowerment. As it says, without the system of checks and balances, there will be a constant struggle between the President, Congress, and the Supreme Court. It is natural that each part of the government would try to expand their powers. Congress would start making laws that makes it more powerful. The President would use his power on the armed forces to gain influence, and the Supreme Court would cut deals with Congress by using his powers to judge court cases. Now, I'm going to demonstrate this very shortly of making deals. Those are the judges that y'all call honorable. Now, one law in the system of the checks and balances is the law that allows citizens to challenge any law that they feel is unjust. And the law is then debated between a lawyer representing the law and the plaintiff. That's me. I'm in the game. I'm a part of the impeachment of the President of the United States. And Congress has tried to conceal this from the public with the help of the media. Now I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of these crooked politicians. As I've been on Capitol Hill. On Capitol Hill, this is the United States in the office of United States Senator Todd Young, which states, and you can see, there's the document right there. See, that comes from his office right there. You have to be in Capitol Hill to have something like this. And it states, U.S. Senator Todd Young, I, Jesha Miller, am the petitioner of the Constitution checks and balances, requiring you to take this to the floor of the Senate. I'm empowered by the checks and balances to be introduced to Congress, and I need you to give an appointment to the treasurer so I maintain my status quo with the net worth of $3,141,000,000 owed for the Judicial Branch imposing slavery that's prohibited by the 13th Amendment. That's a government cover-up. That's the part that the President of the United States plays in this. An obstruction of justice requires his impeachment. Just that quick. I approve this. But it gets better. The Judicial Branch imposing slavery and continued oppression, refusing to pay. Now that's $3 billion. Now, once again, you've got poor people, you've got middle class, you've got upper class, you've got millionaires. But in the billionaire class, there's only 500 and something billionaires in America. And only 12 of those are black. I make number 13. Would have been number 12, but Jay-Z, he slid in there with the deal with the NFL, so he got paid, so upped his ante, and he's on the market, and he's registered as one of the billionaires. But by the rule of law, I'm a billionaire. I make number 13. That they didn't want to do, because then all America would see the corruption in government. Now, as you saw this from his senator's office, this is to Burt Miller, who is the legislative correspondent. And then this, reference to the checks and balances petitioned by Jesha Miller, who is me, to be taken to the floor of the Senate by Senator Todd Young, whom is my senator in Indiana, and write a letter for an appointment to the United States Treasury Department, whom owes Jesha Miller $3,140,000,000. For the Judicial Branch imposing slavery prohibited by the 13th Amendment. We all know. You can't do that one right there. So, that's a government cover-up. That's why they didn't want me to be a part of the impeachment of the President of the United States. That stuff they got is dead wood. This is the real deal. He took an oath of office, violates oath of office, time for impeachment. Obstruction of justice, this is a criminal act. The President cannot be a criminal. It is time for his impeachment. Now, the Code of Ethics, which is displayed in this email to Burt Miller, who is the correspondent for Todd Young, Senator Todd Young, put loyalty to the highest morals, principles, and to country above loyalty to persons, party, or government department. Uphold the Constitution, laws, and legal regulations of the United States and all governments therein, and check this, never be a part to their evasion. You just saw. Take this to the floor of the Senate. That's right. Ty Young, take it to the floor of the Senate, of which he refused to do, evading the Constitution checks and balances. It's over. Got to be removed from office. That's right. Violating the Code of Ethics, which also violates Title 18, Section 241, conspiracy to deny rights and continued oppression. Because this is the A section. The billionaires is the A section. We talk about mansions and planes. Front row at the Super Bowl. We're talking about being the owner. I'm talking about taking care of my family. I'm talking about breaking bread because I represent we the people. And as I stated in further former things on YouTube, that's 50 stacks. They was given 40 acres and a mule. This is 50 stacks for those in the TJ Maxx areas. And I'm going to shout out those needing operations, you know what I'm saying? Those trying to bring other family members to the United States. Yes, I'm breaking bread, and we're building, we're helping, we're using this $3 billion to uplift we the people of the United States. Now, as we move further along to show the cover-up of this, we must take this to Senator Tom Tillis. Oh, that comes from his office also, where you will find the Constitution's checks and balances in both of their offices. And as you see, this is 9/11/2019, Jesha Miller, petitioner of the checks and balances. Gives my address and phone number and all of that kind of stuff. Now, Tom Tillis gets his letter also. As a senator, you must call a national press conference. See, we not hiding nothing here. Nothing is to be hidden. That is what they do for a government cover-up, to conceal it from the public. Because the checks and balances have been petitioned. I'm the petitioner. I'm in the game. I'm a part of the impeachment of the President of the United States. Just showed you documents of the Constitution checks and balances. What he covered up was slavery imposed, continued oppression by the United States Supreme Court. That requires the checks and balances. That's what he prevented, an obstruction of justice. Now, President Trump has tried to conceal this from the public by refusing to honor the checks and balances in violation of his oath of office to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution. Fact, President Trump is indicted for obstruction of justice, seen on YouTube. That's right. But we're dealing with facts right here. You see what I'm saying? We're dealing with the facts. Now, in this right here, oh, that's filed in federal court, and yes, that's right, you see filed in federal court. U.S. Marshals Services are ordered to immediately expedite the arrest of the people indicted using the Constitution checks and balances. The Marshal Service, who motto is no one above the law, failed, refused, and are a part of this in government corruption. And as you see, it says received. Oh yeah, pop it off now. That's right. I'm presenting these facts. Oh, who received it? There's a signature down at the bottom. You see what I'm saying? This is the real deal. Backing it up with facts authenticated by the court, by the U.S. Marshals, and as I say, you ain't heard nothing from Tom Tillis. I called him the other day. Oh, he's not here. He's not a part of that. Oh, yes. All senators, all representatives, including Larry Bouchon, who is my representative, was called also to take this to the floor of the House in the judiciary. So, because I'm a part of that, I have the evidence that not only, see, this is where the president pops off on y'all, that not only calls for the president's impeachment, but also all of those others that concealed this and covered it up. Bam! Yeah. They not going to, that's why they just playing the game. That's why this was a masquerade. Because Trump goes down, he's taking the rest of y'all down. That's President Donald Trump. U.S. Secretary of the Treasury Stephen Mnuchin already told you has continued the pressure because he refused to pay when it was $185 million. Now it's $3,141 million. They had no plans to pay. He must be arrested. Indiana Vandenberg County Judge David Kiley. Judge Tanya Pratt denies the right, First Amendment right to freedom of the press to conceal this. Chief Judge Jane E. Magnus denied the right to freedom of the press to conceal this, that the judicial branch of government is corrupt. That means they was covering for their own branch of government. So now you got Congressman Larry Bouchon, who have already said, it's on blog, takes checks and balances to the floor of the House. Then the House Judiciary has to address this, and I'm a part of the Constitution's checks and balances for the impeachment of the president and these judges. Oh, and there's also the media. There is no cover-up without the media being part of it. And what that is called the Maryland Doctrine of Exclusion, which includes churches, schools, everybody, to conceal this, to keep blacks and ethnics subordinate. This is what it is. This is a petition for action. Checks and balances. The checks and balances are a fundamental part of the checks and balances are mandatory by law. The checks and balances are crucial, as you see, because they must be checked. They're refusing to be checked. Now, as far as the payment goes, Stephen Mnuchin wouldn't do it. How about Justin Mucinich, who is the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury? That's right. You see, because the whole part of that is money is power. As I said, I'm building schools, hospitals, entertainment, jobs, uplifting the people with my billions of dollars. Now, the rest of them didn't do none of this because I represent we the people. But what you've just seen is, the board of directors for the Treasury. Oh yeah, nobody has set an appointment for me to come to the Treasury presenting this evidence so that I may get paid. See, that's destiny. I started off at $50 million. Now, it's $3,141 million, and I'm a part of the impeachment of the President of the United States. The system of checks and balances is a fundamental part of the government. They trying to leave out, right? As I said, it got bigger. And what you got Nancy Pelosi involved. They just scheming on the public. Trump said this. Nancy Pelosi said that. No, they all in it together, as you can see. And I feel that is the seal. Somebody tell me what I'm feeling. I feel the seal to let you know this is all real. Yeah. Now, as we go to this right here, we must bring up the United States Supreme Court. No, first we're going to go to the transcript. I'm David Kiley. The transcripts from the court. At this point, there are no black people in the jury. There are no black people in the jury panel. We have a right to object to that. I can tell you that I don't believe the law will support it. The law don't support that. I think that if we want to do that, Mr. Miller, we need to do it right now. And as you see on the line, yeah, we're going to do that right now. Now, my client objects to the fact that none of the veneer men nor the jury are black. And that is based upon an assertion that he is entitled to a jury of his peers. Violates the rights of all Americans when he violated my right. And guess what? I'm a veteran. I serve to protect the right to freedom and justice in America. And this is what they're doing because they reverted back to Justice Roger Chaney, who said that a black man ain't got no rights that the white man gonna respect. But guess what? This is the law. And the law of the land calls for your imprisonment for this under Title 18, Section 241. Conspiracy to deny rights. That's a conspiracy by all of them, as I showed, who they all got it. You see what I'm saying? Now, by that I mean, I don't think Indiana, you heard it, Pence, he's a part of it. I shot the sheriff and the deputy too. That's right. I shot the sheriff and I got the deputy too. Yeah, guess what? So here it is. I don't think Indiana's in full compliance with the federal government motor voter registration law. As a result of that, we don't get a fair cross-section in the veneer. You see, it wasn't no black people. And as a result of that, my client's rights under the federal and the state constitution to a fair and impartial jury. That's right. I got to have people, my peers, of my color, on that jury. As mandated through the 14th Amendment and through the federal legislation, I think that's been violated. And guess what he does? Judge David Kiley overruled it. That's a federal crime under Title 18, Section 243, eliminating jurors because of race, and also 242, denying rights under color of law, which means that these are officials that are doing this. That's right. You didn't think so? Everybody know the government been corrupt. At this very moment, I'm just proving this. Facts. Yeah, it's time for the president to go. This is all the stuff that he's covering up. Now, this gets deep, and y'all all check it out. Y'all all hear this. The court said, show it overruled. I said, there is a violation, Your Honor. He said, show it overruled. The magnitude of what you just heard was, this is the federal and state constitution to a fair and impartial jury as mandated through the 14th Amendment. They violated both the state and the federal, and ain't nobody saying nothing about nothing because it's a government cover-up. I told you what it was. It's time for his impeachment. Trump's a part of that. He gotta go. Gotta go, gotta go, gotta go. And I'm in the game. That's right. Unprecedented. for a citizen. Don't matter about the color. See, we all people in America. This is a melting pot in America. And just so happened, I'm sent to do this. You can check it out. But, as you said, as I'm saying, they just overruled both the state and the federal constitution. There is no morals and there is no integrity in these individuals in the government. I'm just saying. I done presented it right here. What else do we have over here? We got that. Oh, very. Now, as I present this, checks and balances are used because the entire branch of government is corrupt. I already showed you the documentation for the habeas corpus for my immediate release. You can't hold people, innocent people. You can't just go in and violate the law and everything and take their freedom and everything. All Americans, all patriotics, all students, everybody got to stand up right now. I just presented the evidence for the impeachment of the President of the United States. And that reason is, as I said, if the United States Supreme Court, as I said, did this in oppression as my relief, this ain't injunctive relief, that's right there, $10 million and $40 million in punitive damages because it is the officials that are doing this. Now, if they did it once, they did it one time, and sometimes people make mistakes. That's why we were in an appellate court system. And in the appellate court system, though, when the United States Supreme Court is corrupt, the entire Judicial Branch is corrupt, and that calls for the checks and balances. I'm the petitioner of the Constitution checks and balances. As you see me on YouTube right now, they tried to exclude me from that. I'm entitled to be there. I'm supposed to be there. I got a status quo. My status quo is politically, I can indict the President of the United States. Oh, everybody wake up. How did a black man just get that kind of power? Whoa, watch out. This is on and popping. So, we're going to get to the toast. Everybody know, got to put some butter on that toast. So if they did it one time, and I show, here it is again. Good, googly, Miss Googly. Yeah, that's their stamp. Here it is. Petitioner requires the judiciary to account for a man's imprisonment. This is the right to freedom that America is concealing from the world. See, this is supposed to be proven before a candid world. I'm supposed to be a worldwide name. Oh yeah, I know they looked at LeBron James. I know they saw Michael Jordan and all the athletic stuff and ability that they did. This, at this very moment, is brains over brawn. And at this very moment, the University of Louisville is number one in the nation in basketball. And at this very moment, I just presented evidence that the United States Supreme Court continued the imprisonment by refusing to honor the habeas corpus. Oh, that's a power denied government. Why? Because everybody join in now, the right to freedom. When they violate your right to freedom, all Americans are involved. And they violate the right to freedom, it is a public concern. When they violate the right to freedom in the United States Supreme Court, the nation must know. And the media ain't told y'all nothing. You see what I'm saying? At this very moment, I just presented the evidence that the President of the United States must be impeached for refusing to honor the Constitution, checks and balances of the oath of office in violation of that, and obstruction of justice, and continued oppression. And guess what? You don't do it again. Got real deep, get deep. Water gets deep and muddy. What you see right there before you, and there you can see it now though. Yeah, that's received by the United States Attorney's Office. That's right. Josh Minkler, pop him off. That's right. He had Tom Hardy with him. And this, at the bottom, you will see, is a true bill, which Judge Richard Young refuses to maintain my status quo as the petitioner of the Constitution's checks and balances. I have the power to impeach President Trump and any judges refusing to comply with the Constitution. By the rule of law, I'm owed. At that time, it was $350 million. So I told you, continue the pressure to have no intentions of paying. Destiny made me a billionaire. I'm just saying, that's a fact. Now, any judges refuse to comply with the Constitution. By the rule of law, I'm owed $350 million for default of the 14th Amendment right to due process and a miscarriage of justice by the United States Supreme Court imposing slavery. Oppression of a people requires immediate restitution to be paid this October 17th, 2018. This is 2019. So the continued oppression made me a billionaire. The continued oppression. The buck stops with the president. You seen it. You got the petition for the checks and balances. Immediately I was supposed to have got paid. You saw it. The Treasury. That's right. Refused to pay. I need an appointment. I called for Senator Todd Young. Get me that appointment. I need to go to the Treasury so I can collect my money. I'm the 13th black billionaire in America. And the reason for that is that in that petition for action, big letters, baby. Next, Stephen Mnuchin is charged to inform President Trump of the checks and balances as well, pay $145 million owed for imposing slavery. It's prohibited. Pay up, baby. This is now a conspiracy to deny rights, a federal crime pursuant to Title 18, Section 241. I already told you, these are criminal acts. There are no excuses. You've been sent emails on the website as recent as this week giving you knowledge his money is not paid by September the 22nd. Penalty is $5 million a day for refusing to pay. Y'all see that right there? Wait a minute. Get that in the bold letters. That's right. Review a little bit of all of it. But yeah. That's $5 million every day. Now, the Treasury received this, and in receiving this, that was 711 days times 5 million equals $3.555 billion alone. I'm asking for $3.141 million. Do the math. That just made me a billionaire. That's on them. They refuse. They're violating all of these laws and regulations. They work for us. They supposed to take that to the floor. I'm empowered. What you just saw in this very moment was evidence for the impeachment of the President of the United States for violating oath of office and obstruction of justice and organized crime by the prosecutors covering for the judges. There you have it. I'm in the game. Pay up and let's dance. It's time to get it on in Washington. This is unprecedented. This is supposed to be worldwide, done before Candy World. And good evening. and thank the great Walter Cronkite. Truth must be told. Thank you.